So welcome to this free In Harmony with Menopause webinar. My name is Gillian Nuttall and I am a yoga teacher. I'm registered with Yoga Alliance professionals at their experienced teacher level. I've been interested in health and wellbeing for about the last 30 years in response to dealing with my own anxiety and health challenges within our family unit. And for about the last 8 years, I have been devouring all things to do with menopause. So let's dive in. So firstly, in terms of why this is important, Dr. Lisa Mosconi, who is one of the leading lights in relation to women's brain health, speaks of a positive correlation between how we view menopause and the severity of our symptoms. Now that's coupled with a pretty misogynistic history in terms of women's health, which has led to a lot of negative stereotyping of women in later life and a real dread in women and trepidation at reaching this stage in life. In my own personal experience, I started experiencing menopausal symptoms about aged 38. And I was lucky to have some positive role models from within the yoga community who were through menopause, were even more vibrant than ever and were having some real adventures in their lives. So I did have quite a positive image of how freeing menopause could be. But I started experiencing hot flushes, changes to body composition, changes to skin, disruption to my sleep, amongst other things. And when I went to sort of speak to a doctor about it at the time, I felt like I was left with more questions than answers. Now, I am pleased to say I have found solutions to all of my symptoms, but it did require going to a lot of different sources and learning and pulling it all together. And as I've spoken to women within my yoga community, there's a real consensus that the majority of women don't fully understand what's going on with their bodies during menopause, don't really understand HRT, where it fits in and the different types of HRT, and really aren't aware of all the other ways that we can support our menopause journey physically, mentally and emotionally. They're just not aware of the whole range of toolkit that we can use. So that's what I want to give a kind of introduction to today. I'm currently in the process of preparing a course which is kind of like a toolkit that women can draw on to support them through their menopause experience. But today I just really want to give a kind of initial introduction to what's going on with your body and a feel for all the ways that you might be able to go about supporting it. So when I spoke to the women within my community, there was a lot of commonality of symptoms. And in particular, some of the most common symptoms are things that can really be supported through a yoga practice. So things like sleep disruption, brain fog, fatigue and anxiety, and also irritability, short temper, hot flushes, and some of the muscle joints and aches and tension that women were commonly reporting. So definitely my yoga practice is one of my major tools in my toolkit, but it's surrounded by good lifestyle practices in terms of nutrition, in terms of sleep hygiene, and also in terms of some interventions through medicines that help support some of the wider symptoms. So I'm just going to take us on to what is actually happening with the body during menopause. I'm not speaking about testosterone here, so testosterone is also one of the hormones that declines and that can have an effect on libido. But I want to focus on the two main hormones because that's what really helped me understand how to support my body. So estrogen and progesterone start cycling as we move into puberty, and they peak and they ebb and flow or peak and trough each month. And as we start to hit perimenopause, the ebb and flow gets further apart and the cycling becomes a bit more erratic. And that's when women often start to experience symptoms. So estrogen is not only involved in our reproductive function, it is also involved in cognitive function, in our bone density, in our muscle mass, in our metabolism, in our skin and our hair, our heart health. So it's got so many functions over and above being involved in reproduction. And then progesterone also helps to buffer cortisol. So cortisol is our stress hormone that kicks in when we need to take action. And progesterone helps sort of soften the effects of the progesterone. It can help us to feel calm, it helps with our sleep, and it just sort of nurtures our overall sense of well-being. Now, what I say to women is that these hormones essentially let you get away with not looking after yourself maybe as well as you should have. And from an evolutionary perspective, when we're younger, we maybe don't care so much about looking after ourselves. We maybe make some dumb decisions in terms of not getting enough sleep or maybe not eating in a way that supports our bodies. We may also be bringing up a young family, or we may be really involved with our job, our career, and that can be something that means that we don't prioritise looking after ourselves. But essentially, as we move into perimenopause, that window is closing and we can no longer get away with not looking after ourselves. Excuse me. I think it's Mother Nature's way of screaming at women that they need to take more care of themselves going forward. So personally, I found that modern science helped me understand what was going on with my body and perhaps where I was more at risk and needed to take action to support my health. But I felt there was a gap between that and what I could actually do to support my body. Everything seemed to jump straight to taking HRT. Now, I'm not anti-HRT, but I'm pro understanding what is going on with my body. And from all the other areas of health that I have looked into and practiced through my life, there has always been a real emphasis on how much agency we have to support our health, be that through our nutrition, our movement, our sleep, our management of stress. And I felt like that was glossed over in the menopause discussion. And that's where I found the traditional Eastern philosophies that I'm familiar with to be really useful in bridging that gap. So with traditional Chinese medicine, the approach is to promote health rather than to treat disease. It looks that everything in nature and within our bodies is based on 5 elements, and that we have to work to keep those elements in balance. So everything in the body is treated as interrelated. It also introduces the concept of yin and yang and trying to achieve balance. So yin would be a sort of rest and digest, more fluid, more feminine, and yang would be kind of take action, more rigid, more masculine. If we apply that to menopause, the reproductive hormones which are dropping would be considered to be yin, in that they are responsible for creation of new life, but also protective to the brain, to the heart, to the bones, to the digestive system, to the nervous system. And the stress hormones that help us get things done would be yang. They help us to survive, to respond quickly, to take action, to stay safe. Now, it's not that one is good and one is bad. We need both, but we need them in balance. And if yang is greater than yin, we will then experience symptoms and the body will scream at us. And I think for a lot of women, before they even get anywhere near perimenopause, there's an imbalance between the yang and the yin. And it makes sense to me that if we then go into perimenopause without making any changes, that the symptoms are likely to be more severe. So my approach to my own menopause experience has been to look at ways to nourish my yin and to manage my yang. I also like that within the Eastern philosophies, menopause is viewed as a rite of passage rather than a sentence. They talk about konenki in Japan, which means a second spring. So it's like you're emerging as this version 2.0 of yourself with all the life experience that you have built up up until this point, and that just felt more positive and empowering for me. So I feel like taking the modern science and applying the traditional philosophies is a really nice way of approaching having a balanced menopause experience. So in terms of how we nourish the yin, if we think first of all in terms of the body, our bodies are operating differently. If we continue to do the same things in terms of the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we move, we are not going to get the same results. So if we understand what's going on with the body and feel it differently, we can offset a lot of the symptoms and adverse effects of the hormonal changes. So this is really what the course is going to go into in more detail. But today I'd just like to give a flavour to just give you an idea of how much influence you can have over your menopause experience. So on a physical level, for example, the body relies on amino acids from protein to work on our muscle mass, our bone density, our cognitive health, our skin and our hair, amongst other things. If we are less efficient at processing those amino acids because of the drop in the hormones, then one of the things we can do is fuel the body with more protein, and that's been something that has been really effective for me. If we are less able to deal with stress because of the progesterone dropping, then we can look at the way we train our bodies. I used to be somebody who exercised almost every day, but that didn't work anymore, and I was starting to see that I was gaining weight around my middle. So what I now do is polarise my training. I have days where I really go for it, and then days that are more rest days where I work on mobility and I just make sure that I get enough steps in. One of the yoga teachers who is in my life introduced me to the wisdom of another yoga teacher who was a good friend of hers, and her mantra was that there's nothing in life that can't be solved through movement, and I think that's really true with menopause. We can have a real impact on our mental health and how we feel about the whole process, and on our physical strength and mobility by moving our body. And again, that's something I'm going to go into in more detail in the course. Hormone replacement therapy is another thing that would come into as a tool and toolkit of managing your yin. I think the term menopausal hormone therapy is more useful than hormone replacement therapy, because we're not actually replacing the hormones, we're topping them up to a level that relieves the symptoms, and for a lot of women that can be a really effective solution. But what I would say is that if you're somebody who doesn't want to take hormone replacement therapy, or you've been told you can't take hormone replacement therapy because, for example, you've had estrogen receptive breast cancer, then I think the current narrative around HRT can be quite frightening. It is most definitely a tool in the toolkit that women can look into, and within HRT or MHT there are a lot of different options in terms of in terms of what it's actually targeting, but it is not the only thing that you can use to support your body. So we'll look a bit more at the different types of HRT to help you feel more confident discussing that with your GP as part of the course. And then of course there's a variety of gadgets and supplements and things that can be helpful depending on the symptoms that you are sort of feeling most slammed by. In terms of energy, there are most definitely practices from within yoga that we can use to support our energy levels. There are breathing techniques that we can use to sort of fire our energy up if we feel tired. There are techniques that we can use to calm things down if we feel anxious. But what I would say in relation to energy is that your brain is literally rewiring. And so it's like a computer system that's going through a software update while the computer is still being run. You're still living your day-to-day life while your brain is rewiring, and so there is likely to be some level of fatigue. And I think it's useful to know that going in, because business as usual doesn't really work. You may need to look at asking for help. You may need to look at letting things drop off your to-do list. You may need to just plan a little bit less in than you used to do, knowing that you are going to emerge at the other side of things. And again, there are sort of nutritional steps and supplements that you can look at that also support your energy levels. In terms of mind and emotion, there are a variety of meditation techniques that can be really useful. There's one Kundalini technique that I use called Satanama, and again Dr. Lisa Mosconi, who I mentioned earlier, speaks about how there's some good data out there showing that 8 weeks of practice of Satanama, which is about 12 minutes a day, has real positive benefits in terms of the areas of the brain that deal with mood regulation, memory and concentration. So it can be really effective for brain fog. We can also look at developing witness consciousness, where we observe the thoughts and the way we're speaking to ourselves, because that has a huge impact on how we feel about menopause, which in turn has an impact on the severity of symptoms. Developing wisdom and knowledge is really, really important, because knowledge is power. The more you can absorb, the more you can learn, the more you can deal with your own symptoms, the more you can feel confident speaking to your GP and in listening to your own intuition. So again, that's what I'm hoping to do with the toolkit that I am in the process of preparing. And lastly, making time for joy. I heard an old lady on the radio who was 95 the other week, and what she was saying was that everybody ages, but we choose to grow old. Menopause happens in midlife. We have a lot of living to do beyond it. You are not old, your life is not over because you're going through this stage in life. I'm not sugarcoating it, there are symptoms to deal with, but there's also a lot of tools available to help get these symptoms in balance, and you can emerge from that to a sort of freer, more empowered, more confident stage in life. Make time for joy and for building in things that are just for you and just for fun. Form connections with other women, share your experiences, talk about them, laugh about them, and if you're a yogi like me, try and experience moments of bliss, and your yoga practice is one way that I personally find that I can do that. That might be for you through painting or through walking in nature, but whatever it is, do the things you love and connect with other people. So to conclude this webinar today, I hope you have got a little bit more of a feeling for what is going on with your body. And although we can't in this short video go into all the ways that you can support it, I hope you have a feel that there are loads of things you can do to support yourself through this journey. Menopause for me has been a wake-up call and an opportunity, and while there have been challenging moments, I feel that overall it has been a positive experience. I'm aiming to release the In Harmony with Menopause full course late spring, early summer. It will take the format of short videos that you can listen to on the go, that you can re-watch, and some of it will be lecture style like this, some of it will be follow along. So for example, some of the movement and meditation techniques that you can use to help you work on your bone density, work on your mobility, settle your mind, or maybe help you get to sleep. So thank you for taking the time to listen. If you've signed up for this webinar, I've got your details and I'll stay in touch to let you know when the course goes live. Please stay in touch. Please share this on with anybody you think would find it useful. And thank you for taking the time to listen. Bye.